All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to our fourth Finale Developer Roundtable. It's really exciting to be here. I'm Dan from Make Music, and I'm joined by a few members of the Finale team. Today, we're going to be talking about a couple different things, mainly team dynamics, how the people on the Finale team work together, how the workflow kind of goes around here. And something I think that everyone really wants to hear about. We were promised a little sneak preview into the 27.1 release that's coming soon. So we're going to make sure we hold them to that at the end, giving us a little heads up on what's coming. So stick around. But before we jump into our main discussion, we do have a bit of really exciting news, and that is that Finale V27 is officially compatible with the new Mac OS 12 Monterey and with Windows 11. So that's really exciting. Just real quick, could we talk for a moment about what that means? You know, why does it take a little time after a new operating system comes out to be officially compatible? What kind of work needs to go into that? And maybe why some of the past versions aren't considered compatible, even though it might seem like they mostly or completely work on an operating system.
Yeah, I'd be happy to field that one, Dan. There are a couple components there. I mean, the first one is when you've got OSs coming out from Mac and Windows, we do have access to their internal, or excuse me, to their beta builds that they release to developers. So we're registered as a developer with both Microsoft and Windows, Microsoft and Apple, excuse me. But what happens, of course, is you never quite know what the final product is going to look like. So we do a lot of testing internally throughout their beta cycle and try to report issues that we find along the way as soon as possible and work collaboratively with them. But it's not quite smart to go ahead and just say everything's good until you use that production version of what they release. So a lot of it has to do with just taking the time, doing the due diligence of using the final OS that they release out to all of their users and test Finale against that. On the Apple side specifically, we have a pretty tight relationship with them and really work with them about a lot of issues that pop up and do our best to try to champion those being addressed on the OS side. And this time around, we've been lucky to get all of those addressed, anything that was significant addressed with macOS Monterey. So yeah, happy to say that you can use versions 26 and 7 with those OSs.
Awesome. And then so when it comes to versions like 25 and earlier, is there a particular reason why we don't want to say that those are compatible? Is it resources? Is it just number of people using them?
Really, it comes around to where our which versions of the product are we supporting, first of all. So right now we support 25, 26, 27. So if you're something older than 25, we aren't even supporting it as far as Make Music's concerned when you contact us. And we're not maintaining that product either. So when it comes to an older version, let's say 25, we're not updating version 25 anymore. That's the main reason. We are putting our efforts towards version 27 now, and that's all we would really work on unless something absolutely catastrophic popped up with 26, and let's say it just doesn't work anymore or something. So it is about putting our efforts towards the current Finale, the latest Finale, and directing our efforts there. But yeah, so if it wasn't compatible with the last Mac OS, in the case of maybe version 25 or something, then it wouldn't be compatible with the next OS, and we kind of have a cutoff point, and that just depends on each OS and on each version of Finale.
That makes complete sense. Thanks so much for that little explanation. I know it's sometimes a bit that has been a question of mine, and I'm sure many users as new systems come out. I completely forgot to give us a chance to introduce ourselves. I was so excited about the new news. So why don't we do that? Why don't we take a moment, let each of you tell us who you are, kind of your place within the Finale team, how long you've been here, and maybe your experiences with Finale as a product.
Sure, since I just spoke, I'll go ahead and jump in. My name's Jason Wick. I'm a senior manager here at Make Music. So for all intents and purposes, I lead the Finale team here and have been doing that for about 5 years. I've been using Finale for about 20 years, going back to college. So yeah, got a long history with it.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, I'll go first, Joe, because I know you have more to say than I do. I'm Mark Green. I've been with the team for almost 6 years now, or a little over 6 years now. And I've been using Finale for about the same amount of time. I'm one of the senior developers on the team.
Awesome.
I'm Joe Linares. I've been with the team for 23 years. I'm a software developer, and I've been using Finale for 23 years since I started. But before I worked for the company, I had this product, happened to still have the box, Music Pros, which is also was a Coda Music product based on the same underlying notation engine core. And that's what I used before joining the company. And by the time I got to the company, actually in '98, Music Pros was no longer even being produced. So it's been a while.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I always love this part of all these streams, hearing everyone's history and how long they've used the product, or some of the interesting tidbits they still have laying around from their composition history, whether it's old manuals or fun pictures or things like that. It's I think one of the most interesting things. But let's jump into our main discussion here, which is team dynamics, which is kind of a big topic, right? But basically, we want to give everyone an opportunity to just kind of take a peek inside the Finale team. How does it work? What do you do? You know, or is it sitting there composing music, or are we clicking around and seeing what fun pictures we can draw out of the music note heads? You know, you never know. So this is kind of our chance to give that peek into what we're doing. So I guess kind of the first big question is, like, what does the team actually look like? Who is a part of it? How many people are there? Kind of what different roles exist? Is everyone a developer, or what does that even mean? I think, Jason, did you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, I can go a little bit, and I'm sure the other two have a little bit to say. I think what I would just start with first is kind of a real quick snapshot of kind of where we are with the personnel of the team and kind of how that's evolved over the last few years. When this company relocated from Minnesota to Colorado about 6 years ago, and that was a really big change for the company and, of course, the team. So we had a very, very different looking team in terms of numbers and personnel starting about 6 years ago. As we kind of grew into that new version of a company, that new version of a team that was working on Finale, we had different verticals, if you want to think of it that way, engineers and testers and so on and so forth. And one shift that we kind of made in the last few years is thinking about all of those different roles, no matter what those positions are, and putting the team above all else. So we have goals as a team. We have cultural components and agreements about how the people work together as a team, whether you're an engineer or you're doing the user manual or you're doing user experience. Sometimes it doesn't matter what your job is, because the goals of the team are paramount, and we break down those verticals to recognize what we want to accomplish as a team. So I think I can just kick it off that way. That's kind of where I think we've come from the past to where we are today. I don't know how maybe Mark or Joe, if you want to jump off any of that.
Well, sure. I think, you know, that I've been there for so long, for 23 years, so I can really talk about like the shift that happened, and moving to Colorado did really mark a big change in kind of how we operated. And just to speak a little bit to what Jason said, as far as, you know, getting rid of some of those verticals or those silos, we really are, you know, we are a self-contained team, but we're sharing responsibilities, and we are picking things up. You know, you go through a cycle, and there are times where I don't have to wear a developer hat, I have to wear a tester hat, right? Right now, with where we are in the 27.1 cycle, I'm doing regression testing, as are all of the developers on the team. We're sharing responsibilities because the team is, and the goals of the team are what we care about versus, me wearing a very small and focused hat. Can you have a focused hat as a developer? And I do want to just talk just a tiny bit about how that is very different from before, where you would not even necessarily have a big picture, and you would just be given a task and be told, this is what you're doing, and you might not have the context of that.
Oh, yeah. So it sounds like there's been a lot of growth and kind of shifts as time has gone on. Would you consider everyone on the team a developer, or is that kind of a very loose term that we use to umbrella a bunch of different roles?
Yeah, I mean, developer is an interesting term. Sorry, developer is an interesting term. It does mean a lot in a lot of different contexts. I mean, I guess how I could first answer that question is, we do have several roles, as we've already alluded to here, and almost every single one of them at some point throughout a development cycle contributes to the way that the product is going to look or behave, and I don't even mean just testing means I've done that part in testing these changes for the finale product, but our testers get in there and get involved in updating the files that customers use by default, as an example. We have people working on our user manual, right? And that's development as well. You're writing code, you're deploying an artifact of software out into the world. It's all part of the package. So we have many different roles, and depending on how you define developer, I think most people are developers and involved in the development of Finale. Mark, I think I cut you off there.
No, you said everything I was going to say, so you're good.
Oh, all right.
How would you say this kind of shift from very siloed roles to a more team-oriented dynamic has improved kind of the workflow and the ability to release fixes or release new versions of Finale and keep improving the product?
I can certainly speak to that. Anyone who's used Finale for more than 6 years is very aware of a pretty significant shift in how we release our product. We are now able to hit a stride where we will release point releases very regularly. And it used to be not uncommon for there to be, months and months. And, we are now able to, so there's the removing silos, but there have also been a lot of other improvements we've made to our process. A lot of that has to do with what's available in terms of tools and just kind of a general maturity of the software industry. But a lot of it also has to do with our commitment and the people we have, in the group, and our commitment to this process of continually improving. And so a way that can be seen is our ability to release point releases on a very regular basis that have a lot to offer for our users.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll talk about some of that point release in a little bit. Sorry, Jason, did you have something to add?
No, yeah, that's great. Thanks. Joe, I mean, to go off of that as well, when you look at things in a little bit more of the micro sense, as far as the process and tooling that folks on the team follow and use, just a story just popped into my mind from a few years ago when we were trying to kind of shift the way that we thought about our development from these large periods of time that in the software development you refer to as a sprint. So maybe you have a 2-week sprint or a 6-week sprint. And we were trying to move to more of a what's called a Kanban style. And Kanban, I believe, is a Japanese word that means sign, something like that. And it's been well known from Toyota manufacturing, actually, as far as things move along a process and you send a sign or a signal to other people in the process that my part's done, I'm ready for your next part. And we have a person on our team, Doug, who took us through this exercise, which we call the Kanban pizza game. It was a fascinating experience because what it made us do was we stood in assembly lines, which is not the same as developing software, but the idea was similar, where each person at their station was responsible for a piece of the pizza, right? The component for a slice of pizza, right? You two remember this, right, Joe and Mark?
Oh yeah.
And
Sure.
so somebody had the dough, right? And then someone had the cheese and the pepperoni and put it in the oven. And what you started to learn was, well, I can't make 5 pieces of dough if we don't have enough cheese and if that person's not ready, et cetera, et cetera. The point from all this, which is like, what is he talking about? The point of all of this is the flow of what we're working on. And if it doesn't get done with high quality, it really doesn't matter. You could code as much as you want in the Finale code base, as Joe's saying, from yesteryear. But if no one's ready to test it in a timely fashion, or it's not ready to be deployed in a timely fashion, it doesn't get to the users. So just like if you had a bunch of pizza that you didn't get it to a good, the slice that's edible, it doesn't matter how much you produced anywhere in that frame. So I think that's one thing that's been a big shift for the team in the last couple of years, is this idea of trying to work in a Kanban style, and communication is critical to that, even though it comes from a manufacturing background.
Interesting. Very, very cool. Speaking of just kind of that system, how the team works together, Mark, would you be able to tell us just kind of a little bit on what that maybe day-to-day or team kind of how you work together? How does that work in a typical fashion, especially kind of now where we're getting closer to a release, and that might shift kind of the daily workflow?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we've got a number of different processes in place to basically look through all of the possible work that we can do to figure out how to prioritize it, when to schedule it. There's a number of things we have to keep in mind. The most important of which being, we don't want to burn people out. If we've got tired and exhausted engineers, we're not going to do quality work. It'll reflect in everything that we release, and that's just not what we want. So we tend to take all the different possibilities that we have. We sit down and we analyze them, we discuss them, we figure out, what has the biggest effect for our customers, what thing is going to help them out the most. And those tend to get higher priority. And then we figure out how to group those logically so that as we're sitting there working on things, we're not having to shift gears, back and forth too much. But anyway, we get all these things, lined up, we get them scheduled. They then go through a weekly grooming process of, okay, well, here's the particular thing we want to work on. Let's pull that in this week, and this will be, what somebody's going to do this week. And as Jason said, that's when it ends up on the Kanban process, where, first somebody, says, okay, well, I'm going to work on the coding of that. And then somebody else reviews that. It goes into a testing lane where, it gets tested and reviewed and checked out, and then goes through an approval process. So that's the usual route of things. We'll have large concepts of things that we want to work on. Those will be broken down into individual tasks that we need to do. And we will, slowly work through those on a weekly basis of, let's pull off the next thing that needs to be done for, Smoofle or sharing or something along these lines. And we'll work that particular story, we'll get it through, and we'll continue the process. When things kind of shift around then is when we get close to a release. So when we get close to release, and Joe was talking about this earlier, at that point, we've kind of wrapped up all this work. We've done everything we need to do, but now we need to ensure the quality of this release before we can send it out the door. And at that point, this is where the breaking down of the silos comes into play. Somebody who's normally writing code is now running regression tests, or they're, working on updating build processes if something needs to be updated in the build, or they're communicating with localizers to try and get try and make sure that the localized versions are ready to go out the door at the same time. So there's all of these different processes that have to work out. And then on a release day, there's even more, because then it's, okay, well, how do we get these things posted on servers, and how do we make sure that everybody knows about them, and so on and so forth. And all of that, you know, is that's a lot of cross-process type things we have all work on, and we all get into and all get involved with. So, you know, and as far as like us working together and the way we actually like physically work together, we're a distributed team. We've got probably half the team is in Colorado, and then the other half of the team is in a number of different locations. Joe's in Wisconsin. We've got a couple of people in Minnesota. And what we end up doing there is finding ways to make sure that we're staying in contact and communicating. Before COVID, when we were actually had a you know, solid office to be sitting in and so on, we actually had a permanent Zoom room or a Zoom meeting set up in the office where all the remote people could be logged in. They could hear what was going on. We could talk to them directly and so on. Since COVID, we haven't really been in the office much. So we're all learning how to work remotely. But I mean, through the course of any day, I could be in 5 different Zoom meetings or 3 different Slack calls or whatever else. And, you know, to communicate with people, you know, we've just come to realize that, okay, I need to talk to so-and-so, just Slack them, say if they're available, and then, you know, jump on a phone call and we're there. So it's been an interesting learning experience, but it's something that we've actually, I think, adapted to very, very well. I mean, since COVID, we've managed to put out, let me see, we put out a dot release with Spanish in it. We put out a major release, and then we put out, you know, we're here preparing for another dot release. So, you know, I think we've managed to work out the kinks.
It's great. Yeah. That heavy focus on collaboration and communication is super important and always great to hear about. And the focus on growth too seems to be a very important thing. Is that a continued process, or always looking for ways to keep growing? Are there specific goals in mind for any of that, or is it just kind of seeing, you know, what do we need in the given moment, and work together to create the best situation for that?
I would say, you know, it's somewhat cyclical. Right now, we are very focused on getting a point release out the door, so it's more of a heads down time. But overall, we have you know, a constant baseline of striving to make things better, whether that be in our processes, whether it be in the product itself, of course. But that is something that is really, you know, it's like with what Mark was saying, with all of us owning, he didn't use that word, but that's the thing that popped into my head when he was talking about, okay, now we're going to deal with the release tasks that we have at hand, talking to localizers. All of that is about the whole team owning the process from start to finish, you know, from beginning the process of what are we going to work on for this next release to making sure everything's up on the servers so that users can download it at the very end. And, you know, it is ingrained in us now, I would say. It's fair to say. And I want to make sure I still know and am friends with a lot of people who I worked with back in Minnesota, and starting 23 years ago. This is not about an indictment of what we had. We were trying hard then, right? It's not like we weren't. But I can say, from the standpoint of someone who's been here for this long, we've really hit a stride now where we are consistently looking at what we do and how we do it, and are working to improve that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's very interesting and great to hear. So we've teased it a couple times, we've mentioned it a couple times, keeps coming up in discussion. This dot release 27.1 is coming soon. And from the sound of it, it's soon, not nebulous, sometime off in the hazy future soon. Could you give us a little sneak preview of what we could expect to come in that 27.1 release?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we can say for sure, I mean, you're going to get, for all the Finale users out there, you're going to get this release in November. So what is it today, the 11th? Happy Veterans Day, everyone. You are definitely going to get this update in November. We are at the final phases now of getting it ready. So yeah, just making sure that the quality is satisfactory, as Joe and Mark have already mentioned. But yeah, in this 27.1 release, I guess I would back up a little bit and say the 27 cycle overall, you know, we have some major themes around Smoofle, the standard music font layout. For those who aren't aware of it, a standard format for fonts that you can use across different music applications. Sharing, which is a new feature for us, which you can connect, give your music to your performers with just a couple of clicks. And some other work, of course, on Windows, got some high resolution stuff. And those are the themes, you know, a few of the themes in 27. But when you look specifically at 27.1, which the team has been working on for, I think, about a little over 4 months, maybe 5 months now, it is all about helping out the previous Finale users, okay, for the loyal Finale users. 27.1, there's a lot of work in there on Smoofle, but it's all geared around people who have used Finale and helping them move their documents into the world of Smoofle, be able to use all the plugins that they've become accustomed to aiding their workflow with, and get them being able to use those Smoofle fonts. Playback improvements, not just getting to what it was before without a Smoofle font, but getting it even better than what it was before Smoofle fonts. So there are all kinds of pieces here where if you've been using Finale and you know those, you know, the big features that were in 27, probably the biggest of which to most of our community, which is Smoofle, this release is for you all. Get in there, take the update, start using Smoofle, and let us know how that experience is going, because this one is really for that group. In addition to that, we have a few other fixes. I don't want to trivialize them, but I'm also not going to go and read down a bulleted list. But we've really tried to address a handful of things that have kind of been long-standing and painful, especially in the first hours of getting the program loaded, first hour of getting the program loaded, and things like that.
And just to clarify, this .release is free for anyone who has version 27 already.
That's correct. If you haven't bought Finale yet, and you did buy it after 27.1 comes out, you would get 27.1. If you already own Finale 27.0, when this update comes out, you can just go in the program and check for updates, or if you left them on automatically, it would notify you when you logged on, launch the program, and you will get it for free. Yes, all the Finale updates that start with 27, they will come for free if you have purchased version 27.
Great. And if you wanted a little more background in some of the thought process and work behind this 27.1 release, you can check out our leadership series blogs that Jason and another member of the team, John, have worked on. The third part of the future of V27 just dropped on our blog today. So finale.com/blog, you can read the leadership series, the evolution of music making, and the future of Finale version 27. It's some really great insights in those articles. Great. Just to kind of close out today, I want to see, if each of you took a chance, if there's one thing you could say to the Finale users, one thing that you personally want to share with them, what would you tell them? Why don't we go Jason, and then Joe, and then Mark?
Sure. The one thing I would want to tell users is that, well, first of all, I do understand how, as we're all consumers of software, it can be frustrating when we aren't getting the pieces that we want as quickly as we want, of course. The one thing I would want to say is building software is a complex process, right? It is, as the gentleman on our team, Doug, I referenced earlier, as Doug says, it's an act of discovery. The whole point in continuous improvement and developing software that way is to learn from how you're working on it. And so it is not quite the same as putting together an IKEA chair. Okay, I wish it was that straightforward, step by step. What we're doing amidst all that complexity is trying to keep the right mindset of the experience for the user based on whatever we're working on amidst all of that complexity, and that's what we strive to balance. And I guess I would just want to convey that sentiment.
Great, thanks. Joe?
I want to start by saying I also wish it were as simple as putting together an IKEA chair. That would be fantastic.
Even with those funny instructions, right?
Yeah, I can always figure those out.
Yeah.
I guess what I would say is, please keep asking for what you want, right? So there are two things. First of all, everyone on the team, I'm pretty sure, I can't think of any exception, is a Finale user, right? And appreciates what Finale has and has their own ideas about what we could do to improve it, right? And so we experience Finale from that perspective as well. But I would emphasize how important it is for users to give us feedback, how critically, that's just an integral part of, we're creating this for users and we need to know what users want. It's part and parcel of our commitment to improving, right? We're improving our process, we're improving our product. So yeah, I guess that's pretty simple. Just please keep asking for what you want. It's really important for us to know what you want. And of course, we're striving to meet your wishes.
And there are definitely a lot of ways that you can share that feedback with us, whether it's via social media, but we also have our feature suggestion forum on the Finale forums. It's just a great place to drop some of that information, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Great. And Mark?
Yeah, so I mean, Jason and Joe have both touched on this. I think at the end of the day, we're here to serve our customers. We're here to make sure that our customers can do what they need to do with this product, that they can get their music down, they can share it with people, they can get it performed, they can listen to it and hear that it's doing what they think it should do. It's all about people creating music. And our job is to ensure that we do everything we can to make that process as easy as possible for as many people as possible. And, I mean, like Joe said, keep telling us what you want. It's, we need to hear from you so we know that we're serving you. We've been spending a lot of time lately talking directly with users. Our UX designers have been doing interviews like crazy. Joe and I, well, Joe hasn't unfortunately had a chance to sit with one yet, but he's going to very soon. And that was my fault yesterday. He almost got a chance to sit with one and I messed something up and he had to go fix it. And that was me. But we've sat with a number of users, and it is so astoundingly enlightening for us to hear firsthand exactly what people want, what they need, what problems they're having with the tools that they are using, what gets in the way of their flow when they're trying to think creatively and produce, a work of art, their own piece of art. If there's something getting in the way of that, then we haven't done our job right. And we need to make adjustments, we need to fix those things, and we need to serve the needs of as many people as we can. So that's the things I'd like to say.
Great, thank you so much. Those are really great points. I'm sure all of the people watching appreciate hearing them too. That's all we have for you today. Thanks, Jason, Joe, and Mark for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure you check out our leadership series blog posts on the Finale website, and stay tuned for 27.1 coming to your computers very soon. So, thanks, everyone.
Thank
you.